In this video, I'm going to take an in-depth look at the oscillator section of the Mother-32. We're going to talk about how it works and look at some waveforms using an oscilloscope. I'll show you also how the LFO and envelope modulate the oscillators. Let's start right at the beginning. This knob right here is the frequency knob. And this is what we're going to use to tune up our instrument. Similar to like a guitar with an analog synth, it's a good idea to tune it up before playing. And there's lots of tuners you can use. Most DAWs have them built in. There's also plenty of free phone apps too. I'm going to check my tuning using a tuner in Logic. So you can see here that it's actually a little bit flat. That's pretty good. Let's check both waves. There we go. So the frequency knob has a range of 2 octaves plus a little bit more. It can basically go 1 octave down and 1 octave up. The octave selector here, I mean, it probably could actually be considered part of the oscillators. Are they a part of the oscillator, part of the sequencer? I don't really know. Everything's kind of connected. Either way, understand that these chooses the octave range for the frequency. So let's put it in the middle at 4. So we can choose 2 different sound waves, a saw and a square or pulse wave. So let's just take a quick listen to what both of those sound like. That's the saw wave. And that's the pulse wave. When you select saw wave, this pulse width knob, it doesn't do anything. So it doesn't matter if it's modulated or if you hit it or anything, it just doesn't do anything. But it does when it's selected to pulse wave. And you can see here on the oscilloscope, this is what the pulse wave looks like. And when we modulate it, in addition to these 2 sound waves, we also have a noise source. It puts out white noise, but there really isn't anything you need to change. It's just noise. But it's there working in the background. And both the oscillator and the noise generator are pumping sound into the mixer, which is controlled by this knob. If we turn this up clockwise, you'll hear only noise when you push a note. And if you turn it counterclockwise, you'll only hear the sound waves. So if you turn it in the middle, you hear a mix of both. So let's check out what that looks like on the oscilloscope. There's our pulse wave. With the saw wave, just gets a little bit fuzzy. These can be modulated using these controls or the patch bay. I'll cover the patch bay in the patch bay section, but let's take a look at these. So over here we can choose our source of modulation. It can either be the envelope or the LFO. Let's start with the LFO because sometimes I think that's just easier to hear. We can see its rate going with this light and its wave right here. I'm going to set it to a triangle wave. Now the amount is controlled with this. So if we look on the oscilloscope right now, it's set to modulate pulse width. This turned all the way down, it does nothing. But as you can see, as I rotate this knob, it changes the pulse width. By setting this to LFO and this to pulse width, I'm not going to have to do that by hand. The LFO takes care of it for me. And the amount it does it is controlled by this. So that's a little bit. Let's start doing it a lot. Now, if I push it further, let me turn this down for a second. If I go all the way, the little pulses that are facing down are getting very thin. And the LFO can actually push those past the point where they're really thin to the point where you can't really hear them anymore. And it all depends on where this pulse width is set and how much of a modulation amount you have. So if you're hearing your sound cut out like that, it might be because you've pushed the pulse width so much that the sound has just essentially canceled itself out. Now up here it says envelope EG or envelope generator / VCO mod. If this switch is up and you have something patched into the VCO mod, then whatever is going in there is going to be attenuated by this knob and modulating whatever is selected here, in this case the pulse width. If nothing's patched into the VCO mod, then our envelope modulates the pulse width. We'll take a look at the envelope, but it's basically a control voltage that goes up and down like a triangle wave. And how fast it goes up depends on this attack knob, and how fast it goes down depends on this decay knob. So when it's set like this to go up instantly and come down somewhat slower, it's going to look similar to like a sawtooth. And if I have this set to modulate the pulse width, that means as I push a button, it's kind of hard to see on an oscilloscope, but what it basically means is that this is, as you push it in, it's going to go up and then come back down. It's really hard to hear an envelope modulating pulse width when the envelope also controls the VCA, and I'll get into that later. You can hook up 2 envelopes, and that might be an experiment we want to try. But either way, just understand that this switch controls whether you're choosing the LFO, the VCO mod patch, or the envelope. If we choose frequency, then it's changing the actual pitch. It's modulating this knob, and you can hear that. If we turn the sustain on, turn up our mod amount, it's actually changing the notes. This is a great way to get like vibrato. So there's all kinds of fun we can have with these modulations. But for right now, I think the most important things are to remember, you tune your instrument with this knob, there's 2 different waves, a saw and a pulse wave. We can mix them together with noise here. And that these 2 switches and this knob control our internal modulation for the oscillator section. So now you know how the oscillators work. In my next video, I'm going to talk about the filter and sound modification. Make sure to let me know what you think in the comments section and subscribe. I've got a Patreon page and affiliate links in the description if you'd like to support my channel. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.